Hello, everybody, and welcome to this awesome interview with my friend Lorilei Potvin. Thank you for coming on. We're so excited to have you share about your amazing adventures and journeys. Lorilei, take it away. Why don't you introduce yourself to the audience?
All right. Well, thank you for having me, Dawn.
Yes.
I just love your energy. I love what you're doing. I am a Canadian psychic medium. I'm also a crystal Reiki energy healer. I'm an Akashic Records practitioner. I'm a spiritual teacher and mentor. I'm also a medical intuitive, a registered nurse, and a podcaster. So thank you for having me. I have a show, I guess I should mention very quickly.
Yeah.
It's the Angel Rock on Monday nights on United Public Radio Network Live. So thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yes, thank you. We did an interview before, but it kind of it vanished, and we knew that we needed to do an even better one that was really going to knock it out of the park. Awesome.
That's what I heard. That's literally what I heard, and people may hear me say here, whether it's my higher self, my guides, whatever, that's that inner voice of wisdom. And for a second I went, it got lost, and I heard that's because maybe we didn't say something in the previous recording that needs to be said today. That's
precisely.
I look at it. Yeah.
Precisely. Excellent. Yes. So I remember when I first met you and we did an interview together on your podcast, you were telling me about a very interesting story about what led you on your journey to what you're doing now with Angel Rock, which has an awesome global following, and you've had amazing speakers come on with very interesting bits of conversation. Do you think you can tell us a little bit about your early story and what led you to where you are now? Yeah.
Okay, so the previous home that I lived in, it was with my ex-husband at the time. Ever since I moved into that home, and I probably didn't add this in the previous interview, but just never seemed to be able to get ahead. I had my nursing accident then, which has taken my career, but I still stay on top of what's going on in the medical field and still have my license. But my husband at the time had 3 designations in business. He could never seem to get a great paying job. Second son was born with autism. Again, these things can happen to regular people. But our marriage broke up. But towards the end of our marriage, some strange things started happening. And long story short, the partner I'm with now, we went through the craziest story involving paranormal activity that I have ever heard of. I was never looking for paranormal activity. I always said I was aware of it. But for example, my partner now has been thrown 15 feet at the time in a previous home across the kitchen.
Thrown, like lifted up and...
lifted, thrown into the counter, kitty corner from the fridge, arm all cut up. I did not witness it. We've had all kinds of things happen. I've documented it. I've taken pictures and video. Other people have experienced it. Long story short, I no longer live there, and I don't miss that home. We shared our story on international TV on Paranormal Survivors in season 4, episode 9. But this all started out with a dream for me, probably about 15 years ago, 16 years ago, and the activity seemed to ramp up shortly after the stream. And I remember the stream like it happened 5 minutes ago. Something very negative identified itself, tried to get me to follow it. I said no in certain terms in my dream, but gave me its name, the spelling of its name, and its animal form, and said, whenever you see this particular animal, you'll know it's me. Now, long story short, all heck broke loose in this. I'm writing a book about it, actually. I'm writing 3 books, but this will detail the story. But the reason why I bring it up, I always say I would never wish this type of thing on anybody, not even a blade of grass. But I don't look back in anger, and I don't look back in sadness or regret, because it taught me so much, including opened up the whole world to what I'm doing now. Now, had this not happened, I don't think I'd be doing what I'm doing now, nor what I'm finding how it serves me well is because it really was evil. It was like the evilest of evil. I'm able to see it. I'm able to identify it. And I remember when I was working with my mentor with the Akashic Records Practitioner course, I kept saying, I don't want to work with this evil. God, I don't want to work with people that are dealing with this. I only want to deal with the light. But I had somebody that I believe was possessed on video, levitating on the camera. Was really not them. It was horrific. And I remember contacting her saying, why is this happening? And she said to me, she went into my Akashic records and she said, some light workers are meant to be working with the dark to bring the light to that situation. So I've sort of just accepted it, but it served me very well because it's very easy to see where a lot of it's coming from, where the mindset is coming from, if you will, and how to shine the light on it, how to work with it, if you will. But that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's a long, long story, but that's kind of how I got involved with and realized my own gifts and what I'm doing.
Awesome. So for those that are listening that don't know, can you explain a little bit what you mean by the Akashic Records so there's not any confusion with any of our listeners that don't know? Yeah.
Okay. And this could be a whole show in itself.
Let's just keep it short though. Yeah.
I know that, but when I explain it, there'll be so many questions. I'm sure. Okay.
Yeah.
So what the Akashic Records are, there is a hall of records, if you will. It's not a physical hall of records, but there is an entry for everything that has ever happened, ever is happening, or ever will happen. We're talking even buildings, we're talking land, we're talking people, we're talking animals. Because what I get from people is, well, if it's all written down, then why are we here? This is all planned. No, it's not. But long story short, and most people could do this on their own, but they come to people like myself and we do a session and we go in and I work with it. I refer to them as the masters, teachers, and loved ones. And as I've been taught, and I believe there are many archangels, it's Archangel Metatron, who apparently is sort of the head of this. And we work with all beings of light. So it could be ascended masters like Jesus or Buddha. It could be archangels, could be spirit guides, all kinds of things like that. But we can go in and we can get answers to questions. We can dissolve karma sometimes. Like that's what happened with my Akashic Records practitioner. She went in and dissolved any past, if you will, karma between me and this person who I mentioned. And it wasn't a relationship, but the contact just sort of just melted away. So I know whatever she did worked. There was no argument. There was no fight. There's no anger, anything like that. It just sort of wasn't a match energetically anymore and fell away.
Interesting. Yeah, it kind of reminds me, the Akashic Records kind of reminds me of this cosmic blockchain of every single transaction or event that has ever happened and will ever happen. Yeah. So that's kind of how
But you can go in there and check. Like you could go in there and check about, say you wanted to buy this building. Was it maybe within your plan or whatever? We can ask questions. Now, the beautiful thing about the Akashic Records, now you can just work with one soul individual in there, like say you connect with just one. But the beautiful thing about working with a collective is you get all little bits and pieces from each part of the collective, if you will. And what they do is they only meet you where you are ready, meaning we can ask questions. And that's how I've been taught to do it. We ask questions, followed by more questions, followed by more questions, and they will give us answers. But say somebody's new to this, they're not ready to hear all kinds of cosmic crazy information. Not that that's going to come through, but say if it did, and they're not ready to hear it, that's not what's going to happen.
Yeah, you only hear what you're ready to hear, basically.
Thank you.
Awesome. So when you were telling me you had this paranormal experience, I remember you telling me about how you connected with like a radio show host and they said, hey, why don't you want to...
No, what happened? Okay, speaking of law of attraction, whatever it may be, I got somebody messaging me that was on my friends list, didn't really know them very well. It's about 5-6 years ago. And they said, hey, do you want your own radio show? And I was ready to say, oh God, no. And I heard in my head, say yes. So I said yes. And 5 days later, I agreed to this. Green, no idea. It was on a previous network, which is no longer up and running. I had a show Monday through Friday. It was supposed to be 2 hours every night. Okay, now this is the beautiful thing about all this. And this is how we can, I keep hearing the word alchemize, but this is how we can alchemize something that can seem very negative, but taking the positives. Okay. So my first night, and this happened to be the producer of this station, a husband and wife. They said, "Oh, don't worry. Your first night, it's going to be fine. You don't even have to have a topic. We'll just come on there. We'll help introduce you. We'll talk to you." And they happened to be opening a second studio. My show was the premiere show of this second studio. 10 minutes before my show, I have no clue what I'm doing. I have no topic. I had no music, had no script, and they were unavailable to help me, because all heck had broken loose behind the scenes. Okay. On top of that, there was a scheduling snafu. So I was only supposed to be on for an hour now. And this worked out a couple Mondays and Thursdays only for an hour. Okay. So I go on there and it's not on video. And it wasn't that I wasn't used to going live, but there was no video. Like I said, just voice. It wasn't like I could just sit there and think about what I had to say. I mean, there would have been dead air. So thankfully, a friend of mine who is still live on Facebook and YouTube every Sunday night, Jason Bland with Paranormal Soup, check him out. He's a great guest. It's not always about paranormal. It's about a lot of positive things too. He called in and saved my butt. He called in. I used to call into his show all the time. He called in. He was on the same network and carried me through that hour because I didn't have topic. I didn't know what I was going to say. Then when I got off with the scheduling snafu, I met the host that was coming on right after me. We had 15 seconds to talk and she said, "Do you want to join me on my show?" I said, "Sure, why not?" And we have worked together ever since. We've become very close friends. But what I'm saying is, I could have panicked. I could have just lost it. I could have been angry, whatever. But taking the positives out of it, I'll tell you, I was thanking the powers that be afterwards that it wasn't 2 hours. So it worked out for a reason. Yeah. And that's how I started doing this. And I love it.
Yeah, interesting. I think a lot of that ties in with our theme for the Summit series, which is on finding and fulfilling your life's purpose, because, correct me if I'm wrong, it sort of found you. And then, and then in a way, in retrospect, you look back and you said, wow, okay, that was my purpose. But at what point did you start to realize that it was like, this is my purpose? This is what I need to do? What factors kind of came into your reality to where you said, okay, this is what I need to be doing at this time in my life right now?
Well, actually, what happened was I used to be with a larger group on Facebook, and that kind of fell apart. It wasn't anything really with my doing. There's some little bit of drama stuff. People like to create drama. And I was really heartbroken about it. Really heartbroken because there wasn't a thing I could do. I really done nothing wrong. And looking back, and it was probably about that first week, maybe month, that I realized this was a sign from the universe that it was time for me to be doing this and speaking what I had to say, my truth, on my own platform, rather than doing it on somebody else's. And the one thing that I'm really feeling that I need to add here is when we are finding our life's purpose, okay, maybe we don't know what it is. Maybe the weight of the world is on our shoulders. Maybe it's money. It could be anything like that. To remember to say yes. Okay. If somebody offers you an opportunity, maybe it's something you've never done before, don't know if you'll like it, not sure if maybe you want to do it, but that opportunity presented itself for a reason. So say yes. Unless you have to sign a contract, for like 10 years and you're not sure if you're going to like it or not. Give it a try, because that could be the universe offering you what you're meant to be doing, but you've never done it before. Yeah. Okay. And you know what? I said this to you before we started. And both of us, I think, have a little bit of this, is tenacity. So I was trying to teach myself a new skill. And many people I know have given up. It happens to be with a piece of equipment to do like cutting of letters and stuff like that, right? For T-shirts and what have you. But I kept telling myself, if other people can do this, I have a brain, I can figure this out. Whereas I see many of these machines and they're very expensive. People see the beautiful things that people do, but they give up. They give up way too early, right? It's just a new skill. Everything's difficult in the beginning, but once with practice and repetition, becomes easy.
Yeah. Yeah, this is leading me to a lot more questions that I think need to be addressed in terms of this interview. Instead, I feel like during the journey of when we are finding and fulfilling our life's purpose, at first it's going to feel exciting. And then there's going to be times that will be very challenging for you, whether that's dealing with people or ideas or money. And it makes us ask ourselves, is this really what I'm meant to continue to be doing? Or do I need to take a fork and do something different? So it seems like you've had those questions and those times where you were saying, okay, enough, this needs to fork and change. What was going on in your mind and in your thoughts where you knew that you needed to take a fork and a change as opposed to just keep going?
Well, okay. So I'm going to go back to my nursing career. When I was working, I loved working in the NICU. I loved working in intensive care with babies. Loved it, but it was high stress. And I got to the point where sometimes women can't work with women in a small, close, and it was all women at the time. I know there's men in nursing. And I seriously considered leaving nursing. And I actually applied to become an RCMP officer, which is Royal Canadian Mounted Police in Canada, kind of akin to the FBI in the States, okay? Or maybe Scotland Yard in, the UK or what have you. And I went all the way through, wrote the test, did everything, did great, had the interview, got a letter back, and it was during the first Gulf War, and they were on a hiring freeze, and to come back in 6 months. In that 6-month period, I met my husband to be, my first husband. And again, I took a look at what I was doing and how could I, and I don't know why the word alchemize, I keep hearing, and I'll say spirit collectively, whether you want to say it's your higher self, I say it's my guides. I took the skills that I had and looked for an opportunity that would be more conducive to a family life, but still be utilizing the skills that I had. I went out into the community and worked there. And I'll tell you, I loved it. That is how I hurt my back, but I loved it because I only went into my office every 2 weeks. I faxed all my paperwork in. I got to spend time with patients is what I wanted to do, why I became a nurse in the first place. But I could structure my day where I needed to be because they timed each visit, but I would structure it the way I needed to. I used a lot of the complex care skills that I had. And again, there's our fork in the road, right? Was I meant to become a police officer? Can you imagine me as a police officer? No. But what happened was, right, whether you call it the universe or what, they put up that little roadblock, gave me a little bit of time. And in that time, I started to think about what else could I do? I loved looking after people. I loved helping people. But I segued into a different avenue in the same field and loved it. Same thing with this stuff too, okay? And anybody's going to feel that way. And you can put it like a relationship, right? In the beginning, it's a honeymoon phase. Everybody's in love. The birds are singing. Everything's beautiful. And then you fast forward a couple of years and they call it the 7-year itch, I guess they call it, or whatever, right? Suddenly the magic doesn't quite seem to be there like it was with the honeymoon. A lot of people break up during this period, but the people that actually spend the time, whether, you maybe got to work on communication, whatever it may be, or they realize that they don't just love the person, they like them. They like to spend time with them. You start to grow, you start to evolve. And I think that that's why people stay together when we realize that love. My whole point is not everything's going to be rainbows and unicorn poop and sunshine and whatever. That's not life. Because again, we talked about this before we started this, that, sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. Give me a sec. But when we're, in the beginning, everything seems wonderful and great. And I think that especially with the type of stuff that you do and I do and many other people, and when people look to us for guidance and for leadership or for coaching, that sometimes it's hard for ourselves to admit that we're having maybe a hard time or difficulty or whatever it may seem. Or even ask ourselves, why the hell am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through it? I always say those are the times where we need to give ourselves grace, to accept where we are in that mind space, put one foot in front of each other. That's all we got to do. Sometimes I've said to people, sometimes you got to take it just by minute, because not every day is going to be those rainbows and sunshine and what have you. And I also think that as human beings, that it teaches us what other people are going through, to be able to empathize what other people are feeling, what other people are going through.
Yes.
And it's not going to stay that way forever. Nothing does. And I think it makes us much more effective, approachable people to work with when you've had many of the same experiences as others.
Yeah. Totally. And I'm so glad that you brought that up, because I'm sure raising a child that has severe autism was probably quite challenging and made you reassess a lot of things in your life. But now you can be a guide and a coach to other people dealing with similar challenging situations, because you've gone through it. And what is it? I think the Bible says like iron sharpens iron or something like that. And so I think that this is part of the fulfilling your life's purpose. There's two sections to it. There's the finding your life's purpose and then fulfilling your life's purpose. And I think that a lot of people think that the fulfillment part is just hunky-dory, happy all the time. And it's not. And I think what keeps people going, at least what has kept me going, and probably you as well, is knowing that the end vision goal is worth it in the end. If it's for the service of other people and for the love and actualization and help for other people, that will probably, at least it's helped me keep going when the times have gotten tough, because it's not just about me, it's about other people. Have you had that similar experience or things like that before?
I have. One of my favorite sayings is, you never know how strong you can be until strong is all there is. It's one thing. The other thing is, I think it's a matter of perspective. Okay, so when you mentioned about my son with severe autism, he's 23. He'll be 24 in March. And I have said throughout his entire lifetime, sometimes autism sucks. Sometimes there's a lot of great gifts in it too. There really is. And I don't mean that sounding like I'm a psychopath. What I'm saying is, for example, yes, he's going to be 24, but chronologically, he's between that precocious age of a 5 to 7 year old. Christmas will be eternal. Like Santa Claus still comes, all the traditions, like the magic of Christmas is still there, for example. He is both my sons are my greatest teachers, but he especially, yes, he's given me some of my gray hairs. But with the gifts that have come with that is I used to be afraid to speak up. No. Do I know how to do it with tact, with love, but still make myself understood that, yes, I'm asking for this and this is what we need, because I needed to be his voice. I needed to be his advocate. And you're absolutely right. Like I always say, unless something is in your bubble, meaning the global you don't notice it. So for example, unless you've got an autistic child or you know somebody, you're not going to notice this. But in 35, 40 years ago, it was 1 in 10,000 boys, depending on where you live. It is between 1 in 38 and 52 children diagnosed. They are projecting that in 10 years, 1 in every second child will be diagnosed.
That's not normal. Yeah.
Well, who is going to be looking after these children? Now, not all children are severely affected like my son. But I've also noticed with the skills that I've learned And what I've picked up with this, that I can translate into many things in my life. I've got to be able to explain things and teach things to him without sounding condescending. Mm-hmm. But it's also helped with my, public speaking skills, even with working with other people, to be able to teach, patience, having a sense of humor. There's so many things I have learned from him, both my boys, because my eldest is part of the LGBTQ community and a part-time drag queen. So I don't have normal sons, but what is normal, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure that those challenging experiences have taught you how to be good with your guests and how to be able to speak clearly and patiently and possibly bridge conversations that maybe you don't necessarily agree with or might challenge other people's perspectives. I see the way that you communicate with people in your podcasts, and I think that you really do resonate that type of patience and understanding, and that has probably come from these situations. And I think that just in general, with fulfilling one's life purpose, you need to have these types of mentalities and processes, right?
An open mind, first of all. Like, I think I sent you one of my guests that works with very dark entities, and he happened to contact me after seeing our TV show. I had the most incredible conversation with him for 3 hours on the phone. I said,
was very interesting.
Podcast. And I even said to him, 5 years ago, I wouldn't have had this conversation with you. I might have been afraid. I might have been. Now I didn't. I wanted to hear where he's coming from. Where are you coming from? Like, that's what my thing is. I want to know. Like, I have people on sometimes I've never met. I, work with PR agents and stuff. But I think that's the thing. It's a thirst for knowledge. It's a thirst for finding out about human beings and finding out, what's your story? Tell me what your story is. How did you get into what you're doing? What was the motivation? And it's amazing because everybody has a story. So when people are looking for what their life purpose is, and believe me, when I do readings and stuff, that's usually what people's things are right now. Why am I here? What's my purpose? And the things it's really cool the way a reading will work, but a lot of things that are around people, it's like the universe is beating you over the head. But I always say it's so hard to be from the outside looking in. But when we're holding that mirror up to our own face, it can be staring us right in the face. And it's so difficult to see. That's where your work comes in and my work. Never telling somebody what to do, but helping to point out those things that are around that the universe has been knocking for a long time. You've just been saying no. Or there's so many avenues out there, but because of fear, maybe because you've never done it before. We talked about me with podcasting, whatever it may be, it's stopping people from saying yes. And I'm going to bring this up. It was a video that I saw today, and it was so funny. A close friend of mine, she started trying to express this in words, and I hadn't heard what she had said. I sent her the video, and it was almost identical to what this gentleman was saying from Ireland. And he was talking about what's going on in the world. And he was talking about basically pulling in the oars of your boat and just going with the flow. He was talking even about the evil that's out there, that, what's involved with it. But he said the one thing with people that have an evil agenda is the seeds for destruction are right within their plan. And he even talked about stepping back and just watching people that are really negative, or people that, really have a negative attitude, whether it's towards people or towards life or whatever it may be. And he wasn't bringing up karma or anything like that. He was just talking about that, because we're not pulling in, if you will, that connection to spirit, to the light, to the universe, whatever you want. We're all connected. And again, by hearing that inner voice, we all know what the answers are. We all do. It's just either we think it's coincidence because we hear the answer, or we doubt that inner voice, or whatever it may be. But the answers are there. Some of the things I'm going to mention very quickly too, Dawn, and we talked a little bit about this before the show. If you're not sure where to start, I always say, start what brings you joy. meaning the global you. If you don't know what that is, the next answer or thing I usually suggest is what you used to love to do as a kid. Build from there. Because when we're participating in something that brings us joy, naturally passion comes along with that. Most people I know, if you're doing something you love and you're having fun, you want more of it, right? So what better thing to do to find your life purpose? Because I believe we're here to be happy, to be fulfilled, to be abundant. If you can find all those things and start building and get creative about what brings you joy. Maybe you like to write. You know how many people I have talked to that have an interesting story, and I've said, have you ever considered writing a book? Oh God, no, I can never do that. Why not? Why not? Or podcast. I've even said to people podcasting. Everywhere I go, people talk, right? And I remember this one cashier was talking about fibromyalgia. And she said, because I mentioned I did a podcast. And she said, my husband keeps suggesting I should do one. And I said, why not? There's but better opportunity. They've gone through Netflix's whole catalog and half these streaming services. People are looking for people to talk, talking, listening, participating in it. And she said, in the discussion. And she said, well, who would want to hear me? And I said, well, who wouldn't? I said, how are you ever going to know if you don't try? And if we fail, even if we fail, who cares? There's lessons to be learned in that. There's lessons to take forward with that. But it's taking that leap of faith, that jump. Okay. I always say jump and the net will appear, because it does.
Yeah, it does.
Trust.
It does appear. Yeah. And I'm so glad you brought that up, because a lot of people in this day and age being challenged with their jobs, and a lot of people are considering leaving their jobs from what's going on and the pressures that are associated with the global environment.
Yeah.
And that takes tremendous courage to jump. But something that I've been coming up with in my life is when people ask me, what do I do? I always say, what is that one idea that really gets you excited?
Yes.
And even if it sounds ridiculous or crazy, it's just a silly idea, that's the spark of something that you should be doing. And maybe the entire plan is not there yet, but as long as you take the next step, that's what's going to show up. You just have to keep taking the next step. There's an amazing quote that one of my mentors told me that I really love, and I say it a lot. It says, go as far as you can see, and when you get there, you will see further.
I love it. And the other thing I add to, Dawn, is I ask people, what are you good at? If you don't know what brings you joy, what are you good at? Okay. And unless you're really pessimistic and negative, and you may not have to tell me, meaning if I'm having a conversation with somebody, but we all know that we have skills and we have talents. Every single one of us does. And if you're not sure, maybe ask somebody you trust that you know that you love. What am I good at?
What am I good at?
What do you think I do well? And then once you know what you're good at, maybe it makes you happy too, right? Especially if it brings you a lot of happiness, that's a bonus. Okay, so maybe you don't want to write that book, for example. Maybe you're a storyteller. Maybe you're going to take those skills and you're going to narrate audiobooks. Maybe you're going to, what I'm saying is, and again, I don't know why Spirit is giving me this word alchemize. What are you good at? Get creative. Start looking around. What else can you build off of? You have the world at your feet right now with the internet.
Yes.
The whole world is your oyster, basically. I know it sounds cliche, but it is. So maybe, and then we talked about this before too, just briefly, but maybe you're really good at social media. Maybe what social media platform is good for what. There are people out there that haven't got a clue, that are trying to build new online businesses, that are trying to, get websites out there, whatever it may be. All it takes is a little bit of research and a little bit of creativity. But it's getting, like you said, to that point. But that is where I always say to people to start. What brings you joy? What are you good at?
Yeah. I love how you were mentioning before, even if you're a pessimistic person,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people get paid to be a dick. Like look at like
critique, yeah,
Simon Cowell, or remember when he was that big bad guy always saying mean things, or Gordon Ramsay, whatever his name is.
He's
this guy
changed though.
Well, he has changed, but people listened to him because he was such a jerk. And
yeah, but he said what everybody was thinking too.
Of course, yeah.
He did.
Yeah, so even if you are very pessimistic about things, there are people that will pay you to listen to your pessimism. And so this is, I mean, I'm not encouraging you to be pessimistic, but I mean,
you got to go with who you are.
You got to go with who you are.
Yeah. You can fake it till you make it, and you can really make you really are pessimistic and negative and you really want to change, and change only comes from within. I don't care how much somebody loves you and wants you to change. You're not going to do it until you see the value and the worth in it. But say you really want to change, like, you're right. So go with what you have right now. And the other thing I always say to people is, you'll hear people say, well, if only I had a time machine, I could go back and I could change this, or I could do this, or I could do that. No, embrace it all. The wounds, the scars, the hurts, the pains, the positivity, the joy, the love, the happiness, because it's brought you right to this space, right in time now, about who you are, the big, bad, wonderful, amazing that is you. Embrace it all, because maybe if you had a time machine and you went back, you have no idea. Maybe you wouldn't have that wonderful, relationship, or maybe your children or your friends or whoever it may be. You don't have a crystal ball. Everything happens the way it is meant to happen. We are exactly where we are meant to be right now.
Yes, absolutely. And one other thing going on the finding your purpose, and the whole word that you were saying with alchemy, and turning this darkness, this base metal, into gold and into light. It's a metal process as well as a spiritual process. Yeah. A lot of the times what I've realized with people that I have a lot of admiration for is the people that have turned their pain into like a cash cow, into something that has really, that they've gone through the challenge and they've learned how to deal with that challenge, and now they can help other people. So I actually met a woman recently who's a really amazing singer-songwriter. She's got a beautiful voice, really like angelic sounding. And now she coaches people on how to be an expressive, creative musicians, and actually go out and properly market themselves and feel confident in a world that tells you that musicians will never succeed. And now she has dozens of clients that are paying her to give her inspiration and networking and coaching and branding advice, because her whole thing was, my family rejected me because I wanted to be a musician, and now I've learned how to overcome this, and now I'm teaching other people. So her pain was turned into a solution for many other people that are looking for.
But she was creative.
She was creative. She was creative.
She could have wrote songs about her pain. She could have, and she probably has. But where she is right now, again, let's talk about that word, alchemize, right? She's taken everything she's gone through. And the beautiful thing about it, because we talked about this in the previous episode and on my podcast, about what this is really about, is service to others, not service to self, is she's taken what she's learned, what she's been through, and she's, in a positive way, she's helping others to succeed. And that's the beauty in it in itself. And that's what I'm trying to say to people, because I meet so many people that really, they don't see their own self-worth. Never mind the fact that you are not, meaning the global you, are not here by accident. You are here for a reason. And even with the fact of putting it out there that I want to know what my purpose is, like, again, I'm going to go back to, I can't tell you how many people I have met that the universe has been banging on the windows of their soul, their being, trying to give them this opportunity, and they keep saying no. Now, the thing with fear, okay, it's just an emotion, first of all. Okay, the other thing is, fear, there really isn't a reality. Most things that people fear is the unknown. Think about it. We don't know what's going to happen. People fear death because they don't know what's going to happen in death. They fear about, we've got a mortgage to pay, we've got car payments, I've got mouths to feed, and I'm losing my job. Do I stand for my ethics, or do I keep the job and do whatever? But my point is, those that have the courage to step forward and say, no, I'm sticking with my convictions. And then you get creative afterwards. Again, what can I do? What can I do to help people? Mm-hmm. And the other thing I want people to remember too, and I have to remind myself a lot of, money is just an energy. The other thing is, there is enough to go around. It is infinite. There is enough of everything to go around. I think we hear too many times that this world's too big, the population's too big, there's not enough food, there's not enough water, there's not enough. Again, you may have to get creative. There's water below our feet, every single one of us, if you dig far enough down. What I'm saying is, this is what life is about, I think, is taking what you're good at, looking at it really objectively. Again, if you can do something that you love, bonus. And then maybe you've got just a skill, but how can I get creative and do something that nobody else has done before or doesn't do it like I do it? And none of us do things exactly the same. We don't. Yeah. We all have our own spin on it.
Yeah. I'm really glad that you mentioned that, because there's billions of podcasts. I don't know about billions, but there's thousands and thousands, mm-hmm. but it's not you. Mm-hmm. It's not you, it's not your flavor, it's not your take. Yeah. So, there could be thousands of sandwich shops, but if there's that one thing that you do differently that defines you,
and you'll find your people.
And you'll find your people. You'll find your people. Exactly.
Like attracts like energy. There are people that are looking for what you have to offer. And again, you got the whole world. What is there? 7.2 billion of us out there. There are people out there that will resonate with your message or what you're doing or what you're offering. You just got to be open to it and believe it and put it out there. People don't realize the infinite power of your words, your thoughts, and your emotions. And when you add sound to it, multiplies by 100.
Yes.
So what we put out there, okay, that goes out into whether you want to believe it, everything on this planet is energy. I'm not just one of these woo-woo psychic mediums. I say everything is energy. Okay. And energy can neither be created nor destroyed. It can be transferred from one place to another. So when what you put out there goes out in ripples. Okay. Yes. So and I even encourage people when I'm mentoring them to really just set a watch if you can. If you can't, people have coffee breaks or a bathroom break or a lunch break, and really catch your last thought before you go for that break. You'd be amazed what goes by in your mind while you're diligently working, or we are our worst enemies sometimes, the things we say to ourselves. So stopping the mind chatter and beating ourselves up is huge.
Yes.
And again, I mentioned this earlier, fake it till you make it. Mm-hmm. Maybe you don't believe that you're going to succeed, for example, but writing up little signs around the house where you brush your teeth, wherever, whatever some of the quotes we've talked about, we all have favorite quotes, whatever that may be, putting a picture with it. Maybe you really want that dream house on the beach. Put that picture up where you can see it. Do you believe it? Maybe no, but the subconscious is always on. It's going to see it. Put it out there, like build on it. And eventually, even with a new habit, okay, we're trying something new. Let's say quitting smoking, right? And maybe you fall off the wagon or whatever you do, but you really stay at it. Eventually it becomes a habit that you won't be smoking anymore. Or maybe you want to, that's probably not a great example, exercise. Okay. Maybe you want to go and work out 3 times a week. In the beginning, it's hard, it's difficult. But as you start to build on it, I believe they say it takes about 30 to 45 days to build a new habit. Maybe you want to drink more water, whatever that may be, where it becomes second nature. So that includes, I believe, our thoughts and what we think about ourselves too.
Absolutely. And I think that you also get rewarded for bravery. You get rewarded for taking the leap. You're saying like jump and the net will come. If you really want to grow, what I've learned is that you have to just keep jumping. You have to just keep jumping. We interviewed another woman on our podcast. Her name is Lorna. And her last bit of advice at the end was keep doing the thing that scares the shit out of you, and then just keep doing it for the rest of your life. So,
and if you fall, who cares? Then you just climb right back up. The other thing I wanted to add too, I think it's very important. There's nothing wrong with having people that inspire us. But remember, they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like we do. They have the same problems as we do, because that's a real big thing to a lot of people, an eye-opener, that say there's somebody in the media or the Kardashians. I don't know why they're famous for whatever reason, not my job to judge. But what people don't realize is they have the same problems that we do. We've heard the saying, more money, more problems. I don't know if I agree with that, but maybe bigger problems, I'll say. They have the same issues as we do. So when we put people on pedestals, and then if you meet those people or something, they're human too. And then you start to realize that, no, they're not on a pedestal. Okay, you can be inspired by what they do, but remember, they are no better than you. They may do things a little differently than you, but nobody does it like you do. And remember not to put people on pedestals. Okay, because we are all equal. We are all even.
Yeah. And it's just keep going, really, because a lot of those people that had challenging times, the difference between them and everybody else was that they just kept going, and they knew when to turn things differently around. Like, you couldn't be a nurse anymore, but you could do something a little bit differently that's similar to that. But you kept going. You didn't stop, right? You didn't give up. And I think that's what failure truly is when you give up.
And what do you learn, though? What do you learn? It's how you look at failure. You can say, I'm never doing that again. I failed. Everybody's looking at me. Everybody's laughing at me. First of all, most people aren't looking at you and laughing at you. Second of all, take what you learn from it. Think about it. When a baby starts to learn how to walk, that baby falls time and time and time and time and time again, but it also wants to get from point A to point B, or it wants to go get that shiny object across the room. Okay. Do you think a baby thinks about, oh my God, I fell. Everybody's laughing. No, that baby, the drive to be able to move from point A to point B. And I'm not calling us babies. What I'm saying is the tenacity and to stick with it. Okay. Because there was something I heard years ago. And at first I was puzzled that I heard, what other people think of me is none of my business. And I remember arguing, of course it's my business. Of course it is. And when they explained it to me, it is none of my business. I don't care what other people think of me. And usually when you get haters or you get trolls or you get people that are naysayers and negative, deep down, that's their issue. Whether that has triggered something in them, usually it's jealousy, could be whatever it may be for them. I'm not inside their heads. It's their issues with what you're doing, because what I'm doing shouldn't affect you in any way. If you don't like it, that's too darn bad. And we get a lot of haters along the way, especially as you start to rise up and step up into your power and who you are meant to be. And I think somebody, one of my mentors said to me, their mother had taught them that if the devil hasn't noticed you yet, you're not doing it hard enough, or you're not doing it well enough yet. Because you are going to get people maybe that don't like what you're doing, or, I've met people who their families don't approve of, say, if they're into the spirituality business, whatever it may be, they don't approve. You know what? Then you find your other people. Okay. Family doesn't always begin and end with blood.
Yes.
Sometimes you have other people that become your family, and that's okay. You're all, when you get with like-minded people, we almost amplify that energy, right? And it helps to propel and move it forward. When you've got people that have your back and they do, you share a dream, you share whatever that may be, and they're genuinely happy for you and they support you, that is huge. That is huge. That's the other thing I do want to share. Sometimes we have people around us that really don't wish for good things for us. It may be that they're worried that the relationship may change. They may lose you. You may make more money, whatever that may be. So be careful who you share these positive things with too. And I don't come from a fear-based perspective, but we want to have positive energy towards what we want to, what we want to achieve in life. So that's important to remember too.
Precisely. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Something I've noticed in my life and in other people's lives is that when people really do start to step into their power, it seems like there are possibly great time periods of intense discomfort and fear, and it really challenges your willpower to keep going. Frustration, anger, resentment, whatever it is. So how have you found the willpower in those kinds of situations? Because a lot of people, they ask me, they say, I just don't know if I have the willpower. And so how have you found willpower?
I always say, and I'm not always perfect, I always say that I have to walk the walk with the talk of the talk that I do. So when I give somebody, if I'm working with them, give them some advice, whatever it is, it means I've had to do it myself. So I am serious when I have said there are some days where you just got to take it minute by minute. You know what? I'm okay in this minute. Everything else really sucks right now. And it's okay to acknowledge that it sucks, or that you hate it, or it's painful, or it hurts, or whatever it may be. Okay. You just keep putting one foot in front of each other. Okay. It's kind of like what you said about the quote about looking as far as you can see and keep walking. Once you get there, you can see further. It's the same thing, because all we got to do is take that step, take another step. And if you got to ask yourself, I'm okay in this moment, I'm coping, everything is okay. Right. And keep moving. Sometimes it's and I'm serious, it sounds tedious, but that's what we need to do. Because if we don't, yeah, you can quit. You have that option. You have the option to do whatever you want to do. We have free will. But if you really want to be able to move forward to whatever you want to do, no, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, and don't expect it will. That's why I said you need to have your people around you that support you, that uplift you. Because I'll tell you right now, I have a core group of people, and every one of us, myself included, have had days where it's like, you know what? I won't say the word, but F it. Like, I've just about had it. Like, why don't we just push the button and blow it all up? Like, why? It seems insurmountable. What are we going to do? But you know what? I've got people around me who will remind me why we're doing what we're doing. And I've taken that role for them. Because we all need that. You need that support system. You need people who have a like-minded goal, who will support you, will uplift you when we're having those moments where we're faltering with doubt, whatever that may be. Okay, that I whether you want to say it takes a village, it does. And we all have that village. Like I said, our people are out there. Yeah. And the world's at your feet.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think that when people do take that jump, they're very scared about who's going to support me and who's going to help me. There was a really amazing experiment that was done by Dr. Bruce Lipton that I think really kind of demonstrates how this all works. He basically mixed in a petri dish a bunch of different types of proteins, like little, I guess, all different types. And he blasted a specific electromagnetic frequency through this petri dish. And something extremely interesting happened. The proteins of the same type started to self-organize together. Isn't that interesting? And so it's the same thing with ourselves. When we attune our minds to a specific goal and to a specific trajectory, when we jump off the cliff into falling into our life's purpose and expecting the net to come, we're also going to find other people that have done the same. Because a lot of the naysayers, a lot of the people that doubt you are the ones that don't want to take the jump or haven't taken the jump. And
like energy attracts like energy. I truly believe that. And those negative naysayers are the ones that will fall away. They're not a match for that kind of energy. You're going to naturally attract people that are vibrating at the same level as you will. I'm sure many people, it's not just in the spirituality field, about raising your vibration. That's talking about bringing joy into your life, bringing gratitude into your life. When you start doing that, life brings you more and more and more. And I meet people say, well, I have nothing to be grateful for. Oh, really? Did you wake up this morning? Yeah. Did you have a bed to sleep in? Yeah. Did you have a roof over your head? Yeah. Did you have a cup of coffee? Yeah. That's how small we start. And you start to build and build, including enjoying what you have around you, friends, watching, say you're having a crappy day, bring in a movie that you know is always going to make you laugh.
Yeah.
Open the windows, get some fresh air, unless you live where I do right now, then you go outside. Bundle up, go outside, get outside. That's grounding. I mean, there's a whole brand new documentary out last year about earthing. That's been around for thousands of years.
Putting your feet in the grass. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and even if the going gets tough, like for myself, we were just communicating before, like I got in a motorcycle accident, and it could have been a lot more serious than it actually was. And then looking back on this motorcycle accident, it was recognizing that, man, this actually saved me from a number of other different things that could have gone even more horribly wrong. That this minor little inconvenience actually saved me from a whole catastrophe. And I think
look how you looked at it, John. Look how you looked at it. Okay, you looked at what could have happened, what didn't.
Yes,
you were able to look at the bigger picture. That is something else. I'm so glad you brought this up, and I meant to add this.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can't see the reason for why things are happening when they're happening, but to look back, maybe a week later, a month later, 6 months later. I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine from 2018. She's realizing things she got in meditation that are now making sense. The other thing that I really want to point out, and I meant to, pay attention to the signs around you. So whether you keep seeing, as our friend Juan Antonio Manzur with the numbers, or maybe it's a song that just comes on perfectly on the radio with the lyrics, or whatever that may be, that is not coincidence. Start paying attention to it, because the more you pay attention, the more the universe, you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, angels, guides, whatever you want to call it, you will get more of that. You will.
Yes. It happens. Yeah. Very valuable insights. I think, I don't know how long we've been recording. We've been recording for a while, but let's wrap it up here, because this, I think, has been a really, really great, insightful conversation. And I think you and I are both speaking from actual experience of going through it and how we've been processing the challenge too, because a lot of the people that will be listening to this probably are listening to this because either they feel like they want to get started on something new and they don't know how, or they've been on the path and they're feeling like they're in a slump, right? Or else, why would else somebody want to listen to this summit series? So if there's one message that you could communicate with the people that are watching the summit about encouraging them to find and fulfill their life's purpose, how could you sum that up in 1 or 2 sentences?
Basically, I'm going to reiterate some of the things I've said.
Please.
What brings you joy? Okay, that's the first place to start. Not sure, go back to childhood. What were some of your dreams? What are the things you used to love to do? Second of all, what are you good at? Third of all, what have you been saying no to? Okay, because we all say no to opportunities because for whatever reason, we're afraid. The other thing is to give yourself grace, because I think the more that we beat ourselves up over this, and the more we beat ourselves over the head about, why can't I find out why I'm here? What's my reason for being here? What's this? What's that? Give yourself grace. Give yourself love. Treat yourself like you would a best friend that you love or a family member. Give yourself the same grace and the same love. Also, pay attention to the signs around you and find your people that will support and love you. And remember that, yes, family is great, but it doesn't always mean it's going to be family, because each one of us is here for a reason. Remember that. And again, if you're still stuck, there's people, like I said, like yourself and myself, there's all kinds of people out there. The last thing I want to remind people too is, if you have something to say, and something to share, nothing's stopping you. Most of us have a phone. Share what you have to say. You will be amazed at the people that will be listening, and believe in yourself.
Thank you. Excellent. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lorilei, for coming on and hearing your insightful words and thoughts. Speaking from someone that's been in the trenches.
Yeah, I've been in the trenches. We all have. And that's what I guess I'm trying to say also to end this, that it's okay, because when you find the people that support you and uplift you, sometimes a video just happens, whatever it may be, somebody will send you something, you'll see it, and it will remind you. Like I said today, very quickly, I got this video sent to me 2 days ago. Didn't watch it till today. I'm talking to a close friend. She's saying almost identical what's in this video. And I had sent it to her and she watched it. She goes, "Did you listen to my voice message?" I said, "No, I didn't. I had no idea." You will find that there are no coincidences.
There are no coincidences. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Yeah.
You too.